Okay, here goes. It's simple. Whoever follows my plan will win future elections. How? Well, if you look at the current political situation in the US, it's dominated by two parties. Well, traditionally, Democrats are supposed to be the party of the working class, greater equality, and Republicans are supposed to be for economic efficiency and economic freedom. However, there's a very strong element of establishment. Okay, so both parties have a very strong establishment wing, and these establishment wings have led to a convergence of these parties, the way they behave. They're not exactly equal. They have to sort of claim that they are different, otherwise they will not have any selling point for the voters. But really, the establishment wings of both parties have started converging. Now, if they have got away from economic issues, the Democrats and the Republicans, then they need some other issues. And what have these issues been? Well, they have stressed non-economic issues such as reproductive rights, sexual orientation, race and gender identity, gun rights, etc. These are non-economic issues, and this is what the parties have been trying to get votes on. However, economic issues, the party which effectively, convincingly addresses economic issues is going to win. So here's an exit poll. This is just not something I'm making up. So let's look at what happened in the exit polls. Who actually voted how? And this is a very interesting poll which actually divides the sample of voters in three groups: those who face severe hardship due to inflation, those who face moderate hardship, and those who face no hardship. So obviously the ones who faced severe hardship are the ones who are poorer. And how did they vote? They went 73% for the Republicans, okay, for Trump. Those who face moderate hardship, 50% for Trump, 47% for Harris. No hardship, only 20% for Trump, 78% for Harris. That's the biggest margin, right? A margin of plus 58% for Harris from those who face no hardship, and they were 22% of the respondents. Now, if you look at it, those who face severe hardship are 24% of the respondents, and that extra 48% which they gave the voters, which they gave Trump, is about 11.5% of the total votes. And the winning margin for Trump was only 1.5%. So if you look at total votes, and you take out the people who did not face severe hardship due to inflation, right? And look at just the remaining, the ones who face moderate hardship or no hardship. Trump lost those people by a whopping 10%. So you know exactly who are the people who got Trump into office. Another way in which you can look at the data is there is data from which said that there is if you divide the voting population into three parts, earning less than 50,000 a year, which is the poorest block of voters. Um, then you have the middle from 50 to 100. And then at the other end of the scale, the most affluent voters who are earning more than 100,000 a year. Among the people who are earning less than 50,000, there was a 15% swing. A 15% swing towards Trump. While those earning over 100,000, actually, Harris won the majority of those. I mean, this is just like everything turned upside down. Democrats were supposed to be working class for greater equality. Republicans were for efficiency. But here you have those at the bottom who are wanting greater equality, who are suffering due to inflation, going massively for Trump, and the affluent going for Harris. So what is this? Essentially the truth is that Trump is against the Republican establishment. And the voters who are in economic hardship are anti-establishment. It's what makes sense to them. They are smart. Okay. The establishment, whether they are Democratic or Republican, are not going to do anything for them. That is the reality. Okay, and the voters have also figured that out, these voters who were suffering economic hardship, and they voted accordingly. And they put Trump in office. The bottom line is that voters with non-economic issues are paramount. The ones who are concerned about the non-economic issues, they're not going to, most likely, they feel very passionately about it, and they're not likely to change their votes on those issues, whether it be abortion rights, gun rights, etc. However, there are about 10% of voters, let's say, who will reward the party that visibly reduces economic inequality. Okay, so you already kind of, now that we have a new government which has been voted into power by those who are in economic distress, they need to understand that it's not the non-economic issues like gun rights or stuff or identity issues, which, of course, some voters did vote on that, but the ones who made the difference were the people who were voting on economic issues. And so think of it like a relationship between a firm and its customers. Acquiring customers is very expensive, but once a firm acquires customers, then if it delivers what the customer expects, a relationship of trust is formed, and the customers want to remain with the firm. They don't want to go to the competitors. Same with political parties. They have a chance. The anti-establishment, non-establishment Republicans who are in power right now, they have a chance to deliver to the voters who put them in power so that these voters come back to them again and again. However, if they don't deliver on alleviating their economic hardship, then they are going to go back to the Democrats, or maybe they'll just stop voting. They'll be just discouraged. Now, if the Democrats want these voters, they need to convince voters that they will make real progress in making their economic condition better. So right now the Republicans, the anti-establishment Republicans who are in power, they have these voters. If they deliver for them, they will create trust, and that is going to remain a long time, and as long as they keep delivering for them. If they don't deliver for them, these voters will either go to the Democrats or they will stop voting. Normally, once you have been hit by inflation, prices do not go back down. When they go back down, it's called deflation, and deflation usually happens when like economic conditions are really horrible. So you don't want to be in a situation where deflation is happening. Deflation happens when like demand has fallen so much that firms start reducing prices. So yes, deflation is not something we can expect, but can relief on food prices still be delivered to those who have suffered hardship from inflation? Yes. Yes, you can. You can give relief in the by a means of a negative sales tax. So the price which the producer will get does not have to go down. However, if you put a negative sales tax on basic food items, then the effective price of that food item to the buyers will go down. And the buyers will say, hey, this government did something wonderful. They reduced the effective price of food for us. This government delivered. This is the government I'm going to trust in the future. These are the people I'm going to trust in the future. Bring down effective prices and you are going to win elections for a long time. Okay. Now, of course, price that they pay is one part of the equation. The other part is the income that they have, and that is income fairness, which also we are going to get into. Just like you can decrease the effective price of food by negative sales taxes, you can increase the effective wage rate paid to the low earners by negative direct taxes, and that program is income fairness, and I will get into that soon. But let's just say that it is important to understand that to differentiate between taxes and transfers. Taxes have acquired a bad reputation. The very word taxes, bad reputation. Bad. Taxes are bad, bad, bad. But no. Income fairness and food affordability, you don't think of them as taxes. Think of them as transfers. So let's call them transfers. You're just going to say that, oh, we can't do this because this will increase taxes. No. This is the only way. This is the only efficient way in which you can reduce inequality. This is the only efficient way to reduce economic inequality. And these programs, food affordability and income fairness, will give us long-term viability for capitalism. If this economic inequality, which has increased so much over the past, 60, 70 decades, continues, at some point a lot of people are going to lose faith in capitalism. There's going to be internal strife, and you're going to end up with some bad solutions, like, for example, communism, which was the idea there was greater equality, but communism resulted in much greater inequality. So let's just look at a sample food affordability. This is just an introductory form, right? I mean, well, actually, what I say is that the introductory form can generally just be an introductory rate of 10%, and over the long term, it should increase to about 60%. But even if you can like give them a 10% break on the essential food items they're buying, that will definitely be noticeable. And so, when they go to a grocery store and they buy things, in the final form, when food affordability has been set at, let's say, 60%, they will have the receipt they get at the checkout would be, okay, I paid $6 for eggs, $6 for meal, $3.50 for bread, $3.50 for potatoes, $3 for butter, and $8 for chicken. Okay. So, that's like a sample thing of the, let's say I bought all these things and I'm checking out. I'm looking at this, okay, that's my bill. And then I see the total bill adds up to $30. And then I see the food affordability program has paid $18 and I only need to pay $12. So at least a part of my grocery bill, which is basic food items, may not be like alcohol. So that would have fallen from $30 to $12. And this food affordability should also actually apply to fast food restaurants, which are patronized, like the McDonald's, Wendy's, Taco Bells of the world, which are patronized by those who have lower incomes. When they buy food there, then they should also, food affordability should also reduce their bill. It may not be 60%. You can say, okay, for fast food places, we'll set it at like 40%, whatever. Now, we look at a rate of we look at sample income fairness. The sample income fairness works, very much like a tax return works, and you have an income slab and you have an associated rate. So for the income slab, let's say, okay, just like kind of to consistency so as not to create confusion, I'm just going to make these minus 80%. So the tax you are supposed to be paying is minus 80%, and let's say this is plus 40%. So from 0 to 25,000, your tax that you pay is at a minus 80% rate, which means the government actually gives you 80% of the first $25,000 of your income. The next $25,000 of your income, the government gives you 40%. After that, it is from next 25,000 from 50,000 to 75,000. The government doesn't tax you; it neither gives you money nor takes money. And then from 75,000 to 125,000, it taxes you at the rate of 40%. Okay, now these are only sample rates, and actual rates will have to be there to balance the budget. You have to balance the budget because you don't want debt to keep increasing. You shouldn't try to finance these programs by constantly increasing debt. So in this table, if these are the rates, then somebody who earns 45,000, you apply these slabs and you see that their income rises to 73,000. Okay, so income fairness and food affordability, they sound very nice, but they have to be paid for. And the question is, where will the money come from? Let's start with food affordability and let's see how much it's going to cost. Well, the total spending on food in 2023 reached about 2.6 trillion. This is from USDA.gov. And an article by Zabalos and Sinclair. So food at home cost 1.1 trillion, and let's say the bottom half also have food away from home, like fast food chains, etc. So let's say that fast food chains and all, which you also want to subsidize, are about half the total, and so that is about half of 1.5 trillion. So food away from home was about 1.5 trillion and food at home was 1.1 trillion. So the total food being consumed by the bottom half, let's say, is 1.85 trillion. And if you're going to subsidize that by 10%, that's a $185 billion program, $185 billion a year. And of course, when the final goal is to get to 60%. So when you get to 60%, it'll be 6 times larger. So $185 billion is not a whole lot, right? I mean, when it comes to federal programs, there's a war somewhere, you're going to spend like 100 or 200 billion on it, right? And but anyway, so there are like three possibilities to get like $185 billion, to find $185 billion. And the first is, of course, to increase debt, which is what the US government has increasingly relied on in the recent decades. But of course, it's not free money. It can't be sustained, right? So, to get it started, because you're already increasing the debt every regularly, so you can just increase it by $185 billion more a year. That's not a huge amount. So that's pretty easy to implement. To find that money to get this food affordability started is easy. No excuse. It can be done right away. It can be done next year. Or even this year. Anyway, whatever. So debt is, of course, increasing debt is one way. The second thing is you cut spending, and the second is increase taxes. Now, the Republicans reflexively are opposed to increasing taxes. That's like, it's ingrained in them that taxes are bad. But remember, this is not a tax in the usual sense that you're going to use this tax and make the government bigger. This is actually, if you call it government, the food affordability and income fairness, then this is good government. What is good government? Good government is when the money is actually returned to the citizens in the form of negative direct or indirect taxes. So you're just taking from one part and giving it to the other part. You're not stopping, you're not having the government in the middle, like just wasting that money with inefficiently run programs. But that's good government. Okay, now we come to cutting spending. Now, of course, the big item in spending, which I think can be cut, is defense. Just look at that. You know what that red bar is? Of course, the red bar is US defense spending. They should, like this picture, should give you an idea of what's going on. This red bar is US defense spending. The source is NATO. And where I got it from, it is Hane, H-A-N-N-E, Cochlear, Cokelare. Yeah, so come on. You're spending an absurd amount on defense. It should be obvious. So the US is spending in this chart, in this graph, it is 965. The next one is Germany at 98, and then UK at 82. The question arises whether, this is like just these plans, food affordability and income fairness, are they fair? Or is it just like, the voters, because they have the voting power, they're taking something which they do not deserve? And the answer is no, no, no. We have a social contract. The social contract is a democracy. In this social contract, we have the political leaders elected by the voters. We also have the Congress, the president, and all. The Congress can pass taxes or subsidies, and if the president signs it, it becomes law. And whatever is law is what the citizens deserve to get. The free market has some practical virtues like incentives and accountability. But if it doesn't have fairness, what we are seeing, this increasing economic inequality, then people will lose faith. And then the free market will end up being replaced by something much worse. They'll throw out the baby with the bathwater. The way forward is not to abandon capitalism or free market. The way forward is to make the distribution from capitalism and free market more fair by programs like food affordability and income fairness. So after the 2024 elections, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez asked her constituents why Trump had done better in the constituency by 11% compared to 2020. So in 2024, he had done better by 11%. And she asked why. And she was like looking for feedback from her constituents. And one of the answers was that I feel you're both outsiders compared to the rest of DC and less establishment. Fair. And the second one said, it's real simple. Trump and you both care for the working class. So, like as I was saying, that both Democratic establishment and Republican establishment really don't care about this growing economic inequality. So the Republican Party is a bit of a paradoxical situation. Because establishment Republicans who really held sway for a very long time they don't really believe that economic inequality is a problem. You have Romney, who was the candidate in 2012, and he was recorded saying that 47% who are with him, who are dependent upon government, who believe they are victims, who believe government has a responsibility to care for them, who believe they are entitled to healthcare, to food and housing, you name it. My job is not to worry about these people. I don't care. I don't care that these people are suffering. It's not my job. I want to be president. And I'm telling all these people, deal with it. The government has no responsibility to care for you. This guy has no idea what democracy means and what social contract a democracy implies. Yes, the voters can elect a government which is going to have a responsibility to care for them. That's how a democracy works. They can elect a government which entitles them to healthcare, food and housing. Of course, the efficient way you want to do it is by negative direct and indirect taxes. Okay, it's not by handouts. But certainly, people, citizens, voters have every right to expect that the government will care for them, that the government will make it possible for them to have health care. It will make it possible for them to have food and housing. How ridiculous is it that a person wanting to be president says these people, these voters have no right to expect, and it's not my job to worry about these people who have these expectations. Okay, I'm going to stop yelling now. Okay, so actually right now the Republican, non-establishment Republicans have the power, which leads to this very interesting possibility that they can actually reinvent their party. You know, they're all called populists all the time. Okay, so be populists. Really. If you're already being accused of being populist, act like a populist. Deliver some results for the people in economic distress who actually voted you to power. Don't be shy. Don't be shy about doing that. You've already been like, people are already accusing you of being populist. So be populist, be good populists. There's nothing wrong with being populist as you do, if you're really working to increase fairness in the system. A lot of people in the system want fairness, so you're catering to them. And hence you're a populist, so be a populist and deliver this thing. There is a plan. Follow the plan. Otherwise, you will be just, wandering around, wondering what to do, what happened, why these voters who voted for you left you, etc. So, whether non-establishment Republicans can reinvent the party to effectively address economic inequality remains to be seen, because it's sort of like in a lot of Republican identity is about smaller government, less taxes, and remember, it's not taxes, it's transfers. Food affordability and income fairness are transfers. They are not increasing the size of the government, like they're not going to create new departments, create new spending programs, etc. Okay, so these are transfers. And so normally Republicans would be hesitant to do this because it sort of goes against what they usually are thought to be. However, there are a lot of intelligent people in this group of non-establishment Republicans, and I'm giving them a plan, and the plan addresses economic inequality, which is really the voters who put them in power want from them. And American parties have reinvented themselves earlier, and it's not impossible that they will do it. The Republicans will do it, or if they don't, then hopefully a new generation of non-establishment Democrats will do it. So the non-establishment wings of these parties can only succeed if they deliver electoral success. Otherwise, the default is that the establishment wings will dominate given their money and media backing. And so if you are non-establishment, Republican or Democrat, you better get electoral success, because otherwise, there are many obstacles for you. And the way to electoral success is, of course, a plan for reducing economic inequality that will work. Okay, so now we come to the end of this section on whoever follows my plan will win the elections. Yes, believe it. Any country that wishes to be great must have strong, confident individuals. What is a country after all? It's the people who live in it. That's what it is. And we want people to be strong and confident. Economic uncertainty and stress causes people to be weak. The first requirement for a great country is that citizens have the opportunity to work and are rewarded fairly for the work they do. There is no way USA can be great if its citizens are not provided good jobs and that increasing economic inequality is not reversed. Now, when I say good jobs, even like work which may not be considered good jobs right now, like working in a fast food restaurant, would become a good job if the government increased the effective wage from $15 an hour to 15 into $27 an hour. Then it becomes a good job. That's it. Food affordability and income fairness, provide these to the voters, and you are going to win elections for a very long time.